3 weeks from tonight. It'll actually be kickoff like 3 weeks from right now. Man, I don't mean to sound like too much of a homer, but I said this yesterday on the radio. I think that I don't know where the national love for LSU is coming from. I think a lot of it comes from them beating Alabama in the middle of the year, but the way that they faltered at the end of the year, they played poorly against Arkansas. Then they got beaten by. They were a 2-score favorite and got beat by A&M by 2 scores. I mean, like literally a 4-score swap there. Got demolished in the SEC championship against Georgia, and I know Georgia is Georgia, but I just think that Florida State is a little bit better than LSU at a lot of positions. I think most importantly, they're better at quarterback. I think the offensive line is better for Florida State. I think Florida State's got a better rushing attack, and I think their weapons are better. I think their wide receiver is better. And so defensively, I know that Harold Perkins scares a lot of people. I know that Mason Smith, there was some talk about him potentially being injured today or I saw some other reports that he was fine, but is he 100%? If he's not, I think that is really good news for the Noles. Not that you want a kid to be out injured, but I hope he's at full strength week 2. But I think there are some places that LSU is really good, and I think Harold Perkins is really good, and he's kind of a matchup nightmare for every team in the country. But I just think that Florida State's better than LSU at a lot of positions. Really every unit on offense, a couple on defense. I think LSU is pretty low on their secondary right now, and so their weaknesses kind of play into what I think our greatest strength is, and that's the Jordan Travis to Johnny Wilson to Keon Coleman to Jaheim Bell matchup. And so, man, I feel really good about that game as we sit 3 weeks out. Now, I'm not by any means predicting any kind of a blowout. It wouldn't shock me if we won kind of going away. But I think we're just a little bit better than LSU at each of those positions that I mentioned. I don't think we're tons and tons and tons better. I'm not saying that Jaden Daniels is bad or their wide receivers are bad or their offensive line is bad or anything like that. But when you're just a little bit better at every position, that's where I think you should come out of that with a win. And so, Richie, I know I have garnet and gold colored glasses on right now, but you buying any of this crap that I'm selling?
Yeah, I think with LSU, they probably have, top to bottom, the better NFL prospects on their roster. Florida State, in my opinion, by far has the better college football players in the 2023 season. Last year, everybody remembers the blocked PAT. Shaheem Brown shut him out. Florida State was on the verge of blowing LSU out and just let them back in the game. And they have an extra year of experience. This is a game. I'm picking Florida State. Like I by no means, to your point, TJ, am I going to pick a blowout? But I am picking Florida State to win this game. I think LSU is a lot of the product of the SEC hype, right? That's the next team. They beat Alabama last year. They beat a really, really suspect Purdue team in their bowl game that nobody cares about. But Florida State, I think a lot of the question marks come from towards the end of the season. You beat a bad Florida team. It struggled a little bit. A really not great Oklahoma team struggled a little bit, but you got to beat who you play. But people act like Florida State, when they played LSU, it was the first game. They didn't know what they're doing. No, to your point, TJ, they lost to A&M late. They lost to Georgia. Granted, everybody would have lost to Georgia last year. But I think Florida State is, from a college football player in 2023 standpoint, one of the top 5 teams in the country. And LSU's up there, but they may have more guys that work out in the NFL, and that's awesome. Good for them. But when it comes to Camping World Stadium on September 3rd, Sunday at 7:30 p.m., no, I think it's Florida State, and I expect to win that game.
Yeah, I feel good about it. Now, LSU's a really good team, and so I can't wait for the LSU fans to find this later on and fill the comments. I'm certainly not saying that Florida State goes in there and wins by 30, but I think Florida State should win the game. I think they should be better. I think you're playing closer to home. I think you've got the better coach. Sorry, BK, but I just think that's true. I think he's a better game day coach anyway. You say whatever you want about wherever, but I like that matchup. And I think the Noles find a way to get it done. I think they've also – I actually think it's good, though, that all of the hype is coming in on LSU just because
Yeah.
the fans have had to hear, or I'm sorry, the fans have, but the players have had to hear that. And last year was just because, we talked about this. We did a whole video on it, Richie, but you only beat them because it was game one. Do you remember what Florida State was before last year? I mean, Florida State was supposed to win 6-7. Florida State's over-under last year was 6.5 wins. They were supposed to be fighting for a bowl. We weren't talking. I mean, there's a revisionist history. There's a new narrative. But like Florida State wasn't. They were, but they weren't expected to be a good team going into last year. They were coming off a 5-win season and the most embarrassing loss in program history, and then the most embarrassing recruiting signing day flip of all time. Florida State was not in a good spot going into that LSU game. And so there's a revisionist history that says, you only won that game because it was LSU's first game, when the reality is Florida State wasn't in a good spot going into that game either. Now, their standing improved tremendously by winning that game. But I don't think that the idea that LSU just wasn't, that was game one means anything. LSU came out and scored like 40 points the next several weeks. So you're telling me that they didn't have it together for week one, but then all of a sudden week two, they just figured everything out, and they were on fire since then. So I don't know that I buy it. I got the Noles winning that game. One matchup I do think is very, very important is the Harold Perkins one, and I think he's the X factor for them. What is interesting to me is that if you're planning on spying, and I don't mean to give LSU's coaching staff any kind of hints here or whatever, but I guess I'm about to. If you're planning on spying Jordan Travis with Harold Perkins, we've seen a lot of talk about that, and we'll ask Blake Ruffino when we get him on, when we preview that game. But if you're planning on doing that, I think that's really going to leave things wide open for Jaheim Bell. And I think Harold Perkins is probably the best way to potentially take Jaheim Bell, or limit him, right? And so if you've got Perkins being a spy on Travis and Jaheim Bell is able to kind of work the middle of the field, and then you've got the two massive towers of Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman, I think that LSU is going to struggle defensively. And I think that once we start going to Jaheim Bell, I think they'll have to come out of that spy. And that's what I think Jordan and Benson and the ground game that Florida State wants to employ is going to take its toll on LSU's defense. Again, I like Florida State's offense against their defense. Truth be told, I like their offense at times against our defense too. I think that their offense is good, and I think that our defense at times last year was a little suspect. But if we take a step up on defense, then maybe I'll be wrong there. I love, somebody just mentioned it, literally was going to say, if Deloach is spying Daniels on the other side, the better secondary wins. I love the idea of Kalen Deloach. I think his instincts, Kalen Deloach spying Daniels, I think his instincts are phenomenal. I think the way that he moves and reacts and is just truly, truly special in that role is something that I would look forward to. It's definitely something I would employ if I'm Florida State. And then again, I think pass rush can kind of do everything. That pressure up the middle from guys like Fabo, Fisk, Farmer. Again, if Jackson's able to get in, which, not to get political, but shout out my guy Rubio for sending that letter. I think that's pretty cool. The ESPN and literally congressional members right now are crapping on the ACC, or I'm sorry, the NCAA. I hate the ACC so much I can't even get it right, but literally ESPN and everybody else is, pretty impressive that they're crapping on the NCAA right now. So, but yeah, I think that the pressure up the middle, I think, the Perkins matchup is something I'm very, very intrigued by, very interested by. And again, I think Jaheim Bell is kind of our offensive X factor. What is he able to bring? What is he able to give? How does LSU match up there? Does it draw Perkins out of a spy somewhat? What does that look like? I'm hyping this up, man. I might have FSU by 14. I might have lied when I said I wasn't predicting a blowout, and I just got us going off.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. It'll be a great game. LSU has the talent, obviously. I think Brian Kelly, might sound weird, does not get enough credit for how good of a coach he truly is. What he did at Notre Dame was phenomenal, especially after that 4-8 season when he said that never again, fired both coordinators, brought that program back, went to LSU, beat Bama last year. I'm a big fan of Brian Kelly as a coach, not a person. You could talk about windy conditions at practice. That's why I don't like him or other reasons. But this is the game I cannot wait for. TJ, I have a doctor at work that I pass in the hallway every day, and he says, "Go Tigers!" And I cannot wait till that Tuesday after Labor Day. I wouldn't even be there anymore. I'll be starting a new job, but I would send him an email and say, "Just go Noles."
Yeah. No, I'm excited for it. Again, we're going to be out there tailgating. We'll get the link in the description. I need to start just putting it in there like Harlan told me to do that. But again, I'm an idiot and he's the brains behind all of this. So we will get a link up. It's on Eventbrite. Come tailgate with us for the game. Had a question about the Tampa Noles event. Again, it's a huge block party they do. Shout out Bud and Ingram were out there. I hung out with Bud a little bit yesterday. Ingram was kind of in a hurry to get out back on a flight, but hung out with Bud a little bit. They answered questions there at the Tampa Noles block party. We were out there last year. We did a live show for it. If you're in Tampa or anywhere near Tampa, like if you're in Orlando, I think this is an event that's worth coming over to. It's the best kickoff party in the country. I'm biased, but I'm just telling you it is. Thousands of Noles descend on Ybor City, and all the bars are FSU entry only. And so they really just take over that strip in Ybor. I think like general admission's like $40-$50 or something, but then there's like a VIP ticket that's like all you can eat, all you can drink. It was sponsored by Four Rivers. Bud and Ingram were there. They had a silent auction. It was really, really neat. So if you missed yesterday, make sure you're out there next year. Ton of fun. Thank you, Mike, for the shirt. I wanted to give them some love today, so I wear the shirt to church and also to the show. So shout out to Tampa Noles. Support your local Seminole clubs. They do great work with our university. I think that's all I got. Richie, you got anything else? You got any closing thoughts or anything you want to go over tonight before we get out of here?
No, it's going to be the longest 3 weeks, but I cannot wait. It is going to be an exciting time as we come down in Orlando here 3 weeks from today. The game would have kicked off 14 minutes ago, 3 weeks from now. So let's go, Noles.
Yeah, let's get after it. Hey, if you watched this, if you enjoyed it, make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button. We have really big goals and want to continue to grow as much as we can as this season gets underway. So if you support the show, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. I always go back and look at the numbers, and they'll be like 2,000 people watched and half of them were subscribed. And I was like, why'd you guys watch this for an hour if you weren't even subscribed? But listen, appreciate you guys for watching. Appreciate your support. Come hang out with us at the tailgate. Message us on Twitter or whatever if you have any questions about that. We appreciate you guys a ton and can't wait to be hanging out in Orlando with you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Go Noles.